I'm Luke Westaway for CNET UK, and this is the iPhone 5. The iPhone 5 is Apple's sixth smartphone, and it's the follow-up to the popular iPhone 4S. With a host of hardware changes, including a larger display, this is another moderate but important upgrade to Apple's mobile. Let's take a look. Visually, the iPhone 5 looks like an iPhone 4S that's had a run-in with a rolling pin. It's thinner at 7.6mm, and it's longer than its predecessor, sporting a 4-inch display. The basic iPhone look hasn't changed, but you now get an aluminium stripe across the back, while the headphone socket has been moved to the bottom and sits next to a new charging port. Apple calls its new socket the Lightning port, but while it's good to get a smaller charger, you'll need to buy an adapter to make the iPhone 5 work with current cables or docks. That's fairly annoying. Going back to its design, the first thing you'll notice when you pick this phone up is that it's really light. It weighs only 112 grams, making it very comfortable to hold in one hand, despite the increased size. The screen isn't any wider, but Apple's added pixels to the top and bottom of this display, giving the iPhone 5 a 16:9 aspect ratio. That means fewer black bars when you're watching TV shows, but where you'll really appreciate the extra real estate is with apps like Twitter, Kindle, or when you're web browsing, as you can fit more text on the screen at once. Apps that haven't been updated to take advantage of the larger screen will run with these black bars at either end of the display. That's annoying, so here's hoping developers update their apps ASAP. The iPhone 5 has 4G capability, but in the UK it will only work with one operator's network. That's EE, previously known as Everything Everywhere, which will be rolling out 4G shortly. If you're on O2 or Vodafone, you won't get 4G speeds unless those networks are able to sell their own version of the iPhone 5. For now, we just have to wait and see. The iPhone 5 comes preloaded with iOS 6, the latest version of Apple's mobile operating system. There are some great new features such as Facebook integration, which shows your friends' birthdays in the calendar app among other things, and you can now make FaceTime calls over 3G. Siri has been updated with UK business information, so you can ask how to get to the nearest pub, but it's still quite hard to use and will frequently fail to understand what you're asking. Unfortunately though, not every new iOS 6 feature is a winner. Apple has replaced its Google-powered Maps app with one of its own creation, and unfortunately it's just not as good. There's no Street View anymore, and while there's an icon for public transport, it just directs you to a list of transport apps to download from the App Store. Rubbish. Satellite imagery isn't as good, and the maps feel empty compared to the older version. There are some good features like a new navigation function for drivers, and for simply finding your way around town, the new app may get the job done. Overall though, this feels like a step backwards, and unless Google releases a new Maps app for iOS, there's not really a way around it at the moment. The camera has been tweaked slightly, but as you can see in these comparison shots, the iPhone 5 snapper takes very similar photos to that of the iPhone 4S. I'd say pictures taken with the iPhone 5 are a touch more colourful, but there's not a lot in it. This is still a great smartphone camera though, and thanks to onboard editing and social network sharing, the iPhone 5 is a worthy alternative to a digital compact camera. A new camera feature is panorama mode, which lets you take extremely wide photos by slowly rotating the phone. It's a little tricky to get used to, and the results definitely vary, but it's a fun addition. The iPhone 5 has a new processor in the shape of the A6 chip. Benchmark results suggest this processor is a lot more powerful than previous iPhones, and it certainly feels extremely quick. It's good to have extra speed, but the iPhone 4S still feels fast as well, and at present you may struggle to find apps or games that really take advantage of the A6 chip's power. As with almost every smartphone, don't expect to go more than a day before you need to charge the iPhone 5. We didn't notice battery life being any worse than previous iPhones, but you'll still need to keep its charger handy, especially if you're doing a lot of downloading or playing intensive games. In conclusion, the iPhone 5 is more about refinement than introducing brand new features. The taller screen works well, and we can't fault the attractive, lightweight design. It's not that different from the iPhone 4S, but have no doubt this is still one of the best smartphones that money can buy, with the only real downside being the dodgy Maps app. As an alternative, those looking for a larger smartphone with tons of bells and whistles should strongly consider the excellent Samsung Galaxy S3. Let me know what you think of the iPhone 5 in the comments or on our Facebook wall at the URL on screen. I'm Luke Westaway, and this is the iPhone 5.